Hello, everybody. It's me, San Martin, and I got a special guest. And if you guys want to know about this man, you're going to want to have to stay tuned, and you're going to want to know who he is because I don't know. Why does everybody want to know?
Everybody wants to know.
Everybody wants to know who
Trust
I
me,
am.
Everybody wants.
But you have to wait for it because I started like this.
Boom, boom.
Oh my gosh, everybody. If you guys don't know who this man is, you are going to need to find out. Tell everybody who you are and what makes you famous.
What makes me famous?
Yes, sir.
Oh, we don't have enough time. No. So my name's Clay Camero. My company is Cavi Logistics. We're in the transportation or shipping business, essentially. We're sort of new to this area, but happy to be here. Appreciate the invite.
When you say new, tell everybody where you're from, man.
Yeah, so we moved out here about 2 years ago. This July will be 2 years. We came from SoCal, as a lot of people do. In 2019, my wife and I were really tired of California and and just did not want to continue raising the kids there. So we spent a whole year looking at different places like St. George and Tucson and a little bit of Tennessee and whatnot. And a friend of ours retired out here, and we came up to check it out once. We brought the kids up a second time. Then we came up again for a third time, and we were just in love with it, absolutely in love with it, and decided to move here and change our lives.
Decided to go ahead and be a part of the whole Prescott crew.
Yep.
I mean, out of all places to find, you guys find good old Prescott. So,
Yeah.
the reason why I love doing these vlogs is because there has to be a way to meet people that are coming into our community, that are trying to survive in our community, and also be a part of our community. So he obviously owns a business here. We're going to get to that, but I want to talk a little bit about, family and, what you guys are been doing here locally as far as like, trying to get all in the good old Prescott environment. What do you like to do in the Prescott community?
Well, there's certainly no shortage of things to do around here. We've learned, number one, we decided to buy a house up in Chino Valley because like I said, I wanted the literal exact opposite of Los Angeles. And I love it. It's quiet. I got stars at nighttime. I see 3 cars in my morning walk and they're all parked. And it's phenomenal. There's one of our neighbors has a donkey who occasionally goes a little nutty, and I just smile, I giggle. I never thought I could live in an environment like this and be content and happy. And it's really been awesome. I've married 15 years. My wife, her name's Veronica. She helps me with the business as well. And then we got 2 kids. They go to basis, and we've actually been loving that experience as well. I mean, just the education and the students and the teachers and faculty. Our experience there has been really, really awesome. Way better than anything we had before. But yeah, that's kind of like the gist on our gig. What we like to do around town. I've got an old Jeep, 88 Grand Cherokee that's kind of lifted, and it's a little bit of a hoopty, but it's my baby, and I love going off-roading in it. My son and I, we do occasionally fishing at Wilson Lake. We like doing that. And yeah, so that's kind of what we've kind of been doing around town.
All right. You caught him saying Wilson Lake.
Oh,
Watson Lake.
Watson.
But it's all good, man. You're
Forgive
new
me.
to the area. You know what? When I actually find people like you, it's like a blessing to have people like you in our community. And when I first met you, I was just like, dude, you guys are cool people. And I embrace cool people in our community, and we don't always get the right, the good fruit that comes from the tree of California, and sometimes they want to bring crazy with thought processes, which everybody out there in Prescott land knows, and we don't want to ever bash new members to their community, but we do have like no more moving here,
Right.
and as soon as one California comes in, you're like, all right, shut the door, we're good. So it's always good to have good people here. Now I already have it on the screen. Tell everybody what Cavi is all about.
So we are essentially a third-party freight broker. I guess there's so many different names for what I do in my business. There's distribution, there's supply chain management, there's managed transportation. We have 3PL, 4PL. It's all crazy stuff. How we like to describe it is we will ship your freight, and I'll sort of define freight in a bit, but we will ship your freight across the world or across the street. And there's a reality to that. And in terms of freight, we're looking for commercial. So if you're, moving states or moving cities, we don't get into personal effects. That's a different type of license and insurance. So we're not necessarily into that. But if you are, a commercial establishment, you're bringing in raw goods to create a widget or a chair or a beautiful painting or something, and we can ship to bring you those raw goods from your vendor. Once you've finished creating that product and you need to ship it out to your client, we do that as well. Where we sort of find ourselves different. I've been in this business for over 20 years. I come more from a consulting point of view. I like to get to know your business, your freight, your system, and then we'll sort of help you decide what carrier is going to be the best. Because if you're shipping bricks all the time versus lampshades, there are different carriers that will do a better job to mitigate the risk of damage, to mitigate the risk of loss. Whereas if you have a really high value commodity, you don't necessarily want to give it to just anybody. You want to make sure you're giving it to someone who has a claims ratio of 1% or lower. And there are common carriers out there that will have a claims ratio of 1% or lower. And within the trucking industry, and a lot of people don't necessarily know this, there's different systems. There's consolidation and there's break bulk. So in the consolidation system, you give your freight to that carrier and they hang on to it for about 3 days. There's advantages to that because they're not moving it all the time. So they're waiting to build a trailer directly for that destination. But then some carriers will move it from, let's say, for example, from here up to Flagstaff, Flagstaff to Phoenix, Phoenix to Denver, Denver to Chicago, if that's where your ultimate destination is. Well, every time they're pulling that in, they're pulling it out, they're pushing it back. You have a greater chance of damage every time that pallet gets moved across a dock or picked up or laid down. So if you're shipping something that's of a high value or it's very delicate, you don't necessarily want to go that route. You want to pick a carrier that's going to move it less, is going to take care of your freight. And that's kind of the business that I'm in. So I can select sort of almost anybody. We have over 50 truckers that we have contracts with. And that's just on the domestic side. There's also the whole import international side too.
So, I mean, and when you decided to go ahead and come here to Prescott, Arizona, you knew that you could actually establish this business and be able to work not remotely because you have a relationship here, and also are you at another office as well?
Yeah. So
Wingspace?
So we've got a membership here, and then we also have an office at Wingspace. I don't necessarily advise people to swing by the office. I prefer to come to your facility. I'm on the street a lot and I travel a lot. Again, I like to see your product, your dock. I like to meet a few of your people just to make sure that I understand the system and can build something that's catered directly to you. But in terms of what I do, I kind of like to describe it as the Wonkavader, upways, downways, sideways, anyways. Your freight doesn't have to originate here or even destinate here. I mean, we can pick up, if you sold something to a client in Texas and you happen to be let's say the broker for it or the middle person for it, and you purchased it in New York and you need to have it delivered to Texas, we can do that as well. It doesn't always have to be just in this area. My goal for this year is to really develop the Prescott area. I mean, we've fallen in love with the community. We've fallen in love with the people. Like you mentioned the California thing. Every once in a while I get that, but I'm always like, I'm here for a reason. Just letting you know, I moved here for a reason that is very similar to why you live here. So, but our goal for this year is to really sort of develop this area and really support the businesses in this area, help them grow, help them mitigate risk, help them reduce damages, those kinds of things.
So the biggest thing right here is that if you are a company, once again, in Prescott, Arizona, and I know there's a few of them that are here. Like I was chatting with you about the meat industry, and back in the days, well, a few months ago or a year ago, let's just go ahead and put it out as it is. It became an issue in sense, having like I think you actually said the word bottleneck. Now that bottleneck idea, for instance, like we had a company, actually it was the founding fathers. They were waiting for their humidifier for their the cigar thing. They're like, well, sitting on a dock in somewhere land. Yep. Do you actually find that a piece of product and say, yes, I can go ahead and get that to you? Just let me go ahead and find out where it's at.
Yeah. So that's a tricky answer. It's sort of a yes and no. What we constantly keep our eye, and you can see on our website, either caviinc.com or cavilogistics.com. We'll have an industry update. And like I said, I've been in this over 20 years, and there's never been as much volatility as there is now in our marketplace. And a lot of it has to do with COVID, labor shortages, equipment shortages, and the demand is still fairly high. We have seen the last 2 quarters that some of the economy is slowing down a little bit. So demand is kind of easing up, which is opening some opportunities in the marketplace to get caught up. So, but because we keep our eye on everything, and because we're constantly watching the various embargoes, certain carriers don't want certain freight to certain lanes in the United States, or certain steamship lines don't want certain freight from certain ports across the seas. That's what we keep our eye on. And that's our benefit to you. So if you came to us today, for example, if you came to us with a shipment going into Dallas, Texas, 2 days ago, AAA Cooper put a complete embargo on Dallas, Texas. They don't want any freight in or out, period. End of question, nothing. So if you had accidentally shipped it with them, it would have ended up, they're having a serious constraint issue in terms of getting the freight caught up and moved in and out for their labor issues. And they're a phenomenal carrier, by the way. This is just a situation that's happening in the world right now with COVID and labor shortages. But they need 2-3 weeks to get caught up on moving that freight, as I explained earlier, across the dock and into the different trailers that are going to go to the next stop and move on out. So until they get that backlog or that bottleneck caught up, then they'll start to accept it again. But if you had accidentally given them freight, you could end up in a situation where domestically, not just internationally, domestically, your freight will sit in a trailer in a yard for 2 or 3 weeks when it should technically have been delivered in 3 days, depending on lane, maybe 5 days. But you can tell that's quite a big difference. Now, same thing happened in the international arena. In March, the port of Shenzhen was closed. Well, that created a massive backlog. And then in April, the port of Shanghai was closed. So right now, if you look at the United States and our ports on the west and the east coast, they're starting to clear up. There's not as many ships that are parked. Well, that's because they're all sitting on overseas in China right now, because the 2 ports of Shenzhen and Shanghai closed, and that created another massive bottleneck. So we will see in 2, maybe 3 months' time, that rush of those steamship lines, or I always say steamship lines from the old days, container lines coming across back to the east and west coast, and we'll end up with another bottleneck here, which will then create another sort of set of congestion. The only thing that we see that might ease a little bit of that pressure is the fact that the economy's not as robust as it was. It's slowing down a little bit. So when demand decreases, you have more opportunities to find equipment, move freight, what have you not. So in a long answer, if we had known about it ahead enough of time, yes, we totally could have helped out in that situation. In some situations, they may have had an agreement with someone, so we can't necessarily get involved. But I did have 2 weeks ago for Waters Garden Center, Ken Lane. Hello, sir. Hope you're watching. He couldn't get some pottery out of Los Angeles, and he contacted us. We were able to find a trucker. We got it picked up the following day, delivered the day after that. Everything clean, no damages. We were able to find someone when his vendor and his staff was not able at that moment. So it's always good to reach out to us to see, if there's something that we can handle. We're not, we had sort of discussed this earlier. We're not in the parcel business. So I don't do US mail, and I don't necessarily do UPS. We do have a beta system I'd say it's in beta for UPS, but we haven't opened it up to everybody at this point in time because we're still trying to figure it out. But if you get up to about 150 pounds, 125, 150 pounds, I'd say that's the minimum. If you're moving that with UPS or FedEx, but it's 4 or 5 boxes and the total weight is 100 to 150 pounds, give us a shout. There are some weight breaks on certain classifications where we will be less than they will. And we can do the inside delivery, the lift gate, we can deliver to a shopping mall, all of that. And even when you add all those additional charges, because in my world, in terms of the freight world, there's charges for sort of all those things. They're used to just sort of dock to dock, business to business type distribution centers, but we can do malls. And when you add in all those charges, we still can be less than the FedEx or UPS. But again, it depends on the weight and it depends on the commodity. So I don't know if we've got the time for it, but like if you, that pottery guy, for example, so he's been shipping it as pottery, which is a class 125 for some time now. Well, if you ship it as ceramic ware and you reduce the release value, the value on if it breaks, the carrier pays you back, you can ship it at a class 70, which saves you a significant amount of money. It's around 27%. Okay, it's a lot. But then everybody out there probably goes, well, wait a minute. I'm reducing my invoice value for replacement. We offer third-party insurance, which is really, really cheap. And it's still, even when you add that insurance to that shipment, we are still saving the client money by just knowing the difference between the two classifications, the regulation of what one specific item is classified as.
Wow.
So those are things that we can also help with.
So basically, you're a guru when it comes to shipping stuff, because you're like class 784, and I'm like, no, what the heck does that mean?
Right.
But at the same time, it's just like it's common sense. If you guys want to save money in order for you guys to go ahead and ship your product that you are making here locally or abroad, this is the way that you go ahead and do it. So
Right.
I've been letting everybody know how to get a hold of this man. It's right here. The website is Cavi, CAVIINC.com. The dash I can go ahead and take off. Obviously, that's not a part of it, but needless to say, if you guys want to go ahead and hear more about what is going on in this industry, you can actually also follow his page. It's amazing, and that's been scrolling on the bottom. So if you want to go ahead and do the website /industry-updates, you will be updated on what is actually going down, and tell everybody how to get a hold of you here locally in Prescott, Arizona.
Yeah, so our office line is 928-237-5588. If you have any general questions, I like to give our general email address. It's info@caviinc.com or at cavilogistics.com. Either one goes. If you have a specific question for myself, it's my first name, Clay, my last name, Camero, Camero, at either Cavi Inc. or cavilogistics.com. And if you send me something directly, like I said, I like being on the street. I like being with clients. I like learning about their business. So it might take me a little while to get back to you. But if you send it to the info one, that goes to our customer service team, and they can reach out and answer any questions for you. And at some point, if it looks like something will work out, I'll show up at your door trying to learn about your business. So.
Right on, man. With that being said, I'm out of here. Make sure you go follow his page. We'll go ahead and put all that information in our comments, and we'll see you next time.
Appreciate everyone's time. Thank
I'll
you.
see you here in a few minutes. I'm going to go drink a little bit of wine. But until then, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.